start thinking about what you do and why customers would pay a premium for that. And if you cannot answer that, there's work to do. It's a very simple question. What would it take for people to start paying a premium for it?
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
Man, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the remarkable relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving, and I run boot camps to help companies get paid more. Our guest today is Dobbe. Here are 3 things you want to know about Ton before we start. He's the founder of Value Inspiration, helping SaaS companies transform from commoditized to remarkable. He's the author of The Remarkable Effect, where he explores what makes products stand out and command premium prices. And he's a keynote speaker and podcast host himself. Welcome, Ton.
It's a pleasure to be there, Mark. And you pronounced my name pretty well.
Thank you. We were sitting here practicing it before we hit record.
I'm Dutch. It's hard.
So I always start with the question, how did you get into pricing? And you're kind of into pricing the way I think of it, but how did you get into value? How did you get into this whole topic?
Oh my God, that's a story. Well, a little bit about my background. I have worked my entire career in the enterprise resource planning space. I worked for a software company called Unit 4. And pretty early in my career, I started in sales, then went to marketing, and then started doing product marketing. And pretty early in my career there, I also got to own pricing. First for the SMB market, and later on when we acquired a company in Norway, I became globally responsible for product marketing and product strategy. And pricing was sort of always in my pocket. So that's where I got the connection to pricing. The value part is because of what is my own passion, and it's also why I wrote my book, The Remarkable Effect. I believe that there's so many software companies out there. When I left Unit 4 and decided what am I going to do next, I didn't want to work for another large corporate anymore. And what I found was that a lot of startups fail. So some of the statistics are 9 out of 10. Some say 99 out of 100. And I was like, why? And I believe that a lot of these companies don't have to fail if they do a couple of things right. What made me even more crunch or be surprised is that 75% of scale-ups fail, which is another thing. They have product market fit, they've come a long way, they have a lot of customers paying, and still they fail. And at the end, it all boils down to not an inability to market their products at an appropriate value. So that's where value comes in, where pricing comes in, where value proposition comes in, where positioning comes in. Because if you fail there, the company, no matter how good it is, it will fail.
Okay, so we're going to define value. I love talking about what's the definition of value, and I'll compare yours to mine and all that. But before we jump there, I just want to share, I was a salesperson early in my career. I was an engineer first, right? And then I became a technical salesperson, and I was horrible. Oh my gosh. And as I look back, I know it's because I used to talk about the product all the time.
Yep.
And I didn't really talk about the customer and where the value was. And then I take that and I say, well, as I work with marketing people and I look at all of the web pages that are out there, everybody's talking about their product. And so that leads us into, well, what's value? Because the product isn't value. The product delivers value, but it isn't value.
Yep.
What do you think value is?
Value is a story in the head of a customer. So when I say to you, for example, this is $30,000 US, some people will say that's expensive, and other people will say that's a bargain. And the difference is how well you communicate the value in a way that clicks with them. That's how simple it is at the end.
So although I don't disagree with what you just said, I don't find it helpful.
Helpful.
matters.
Okay.
I don't find it useful, right?
Okay.
So essentially, if I were to try to use what you just said, I would say, well, now my job is to go make you believe a story. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that or what to do.
Funny
Can I
enough,
share can
yeah.
I share my definition for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So I define value as the result of solving problems.
Yeah, true.
Right. And so it's perfectly consistent with yours, right? It's the story that I'm telling myself. What are the problems I think I have? What are the results I think I'm going to achieve?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly also what you said earlier. If you only talk about the product, you don't make the connection to the problem that you solve. You let the customer to connect the dots. And very often they cannot. If you show them all your features for 1 hour long and how impressive that is, they cannot connect how these features are going to solve their problem. So actually, funny enough, just before this call, I did a 1.5 hour workshop getting one of my customer salespeople from level 0 to level 4 confidence where it comes to explaining the value of their product. And this session was about defining the problem. And the funny thing is, even though people think that they understand, they've, for example, been in sales for 10 years, and a couple of people were. I asked them, okay, so what do you think is the problem that your customers typically have when they come to you? And they wrote down the things that they typically hear. And factually, it was all correct, but it wasn't hitting a nerve. And so they were saying things like they weren't efficient enough. That's the problem. They didn't have enough transparency. They didn't have enough visibility to make decisions. They weren't in control of the business. So yes, technically at a very high level, that is a problem, but it's more how do you say that? It's the cause of a larger problem. The fact that you're inefficient doesn't mean anything. I mean, I always say, so what?
So
The moment you start saying asking the so what question, people start explaining it and say, okay, well, the inefficiency is, and they give an example of something that is the real thing. And what I always try to get to is, what are either the things that either wakes them up at night, every night, or what gets them fired? And I read for myself. I've written a long blog on it as well. It's sort of a formula. This inability to either deliver on a commitment that you made yourself, or an expectation from the business within a certain constraint. So, for example, the inability to, for example, let me like quote some of the examples we created today. Inability to get utilization of our business 5% up within a quarter. Now, it started with we need project management software, and we don't have an overview of all our projects. That was the problem. But if you then started to look deeper, and you start to realize, okay, so the real problems were utilization rates were 5% too low, and if they don't meet their deadline, someone's head is on the block. You know, someone will get fired. There will be a reorganization maybe, because the 5%, not missing your profit 5%, could mean that 100 people will be laid off. And these are real problems. Now, the moment I would say, okay, I got your project management software, and I'll give you an overview of all your projects, and it's 30,000. Then people have a perception on, that's pretty expensive, because I can get Microsoft projects for 2,000.
Yep.
Now, the moment I say, I have software that's designed for companies like you, and it will help you to get your utilization not 5% up, but at least 10% up. Not in a quarter, but in a month. By the way, also your billability rates will go up. Your consultancy rate will go, I mean, a number of those things. Then suddenly that 30K becomes, wait a minute, 5% profit. That's $1 million. For 30K, I can solve $1 million problem in 1 month. Now it's cheap. So
no, I think that's absolutely right. And so what I just heard you say is that buyers often don't understand their own problems.
Yeah.
And so we as sellers, we need to make sure that our buyers understand their problems.
Yeah.
And we need to understand, I tend to think of this as I'm going to use business acumen to say, look, if I could solve this problem, these are the KPIs I'm going to move inside your company. Right. And so I'm going to get you 5% more utilization. I'm going to get you this in 1 month instead of 3 months. I'm going to, right. So we're now watching KPIs and not promising, but talking about those KPIs that we're going to do for our customers.
Promising. Well, I mean, now you come to the point of value pricing. Because I can say, okay, this is the price, and the perception of the customer is either expensive or not, or a bargain. Then there's always this thing of they have made a decision that you are the choice. And then there's this thing of, they've written this book, the Jolt effect. That like, it's not that they don't know that they have to make a decision, because it's clear. And it's not that they don't know that you are the right decision, because it's also clear, because you're clearly the number one in their minds. But now there's the fear of messing up. So the moment you can add something like a guarantee or like a reliable promise to that you can even charge more on pricing, because it takes a lot of objections away around the fear of messing up. And a couple of companies that I've spoken to also on my podcast are using that in an extremely good way. I mean, I've spoken to one example, the CEO of Paddle, Christian Owens, and they openly admit that they are charging more than any of their competitors, PayPal, Stripe. And they have quotes from their customers on their website why they are so happy to pay premium. I mean, that is the right way.
Yep.
And it's because of guarantees.
So most companies have a hard time with the guarantee. And here's the reason it feels like to me. Not that their product isn't going to work, but that the implementation, did the customer put in the effort to implement it the way they should have or could have? Yep. How do you address that?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, of course. I mean, I cannot say that everybody can have a guarantee. But to that point, I think you can, because there's always something. If you think about the ethics of your company and the things that you don't say but will do, that's also a guarantee. Just make that explicit. We will stay until da 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 da. We will make sure that da 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 da. You know, it's inexplicit you doing it anyway. So why not say it? That can be a guarantee as a starting point. Then you can also grow your guarantee. Because what I've seen with companies that have built guarantees and are doing that, the moment you put in a guarantee, sales stop selling things that the company cannot prove. Marketing stops marketing to companies that they don't want. But the sales funnel is filled with better prospects. Sales is qualifying way better because they need to make the proof. Implementation is getting an easier job to implement. And R&D is now knowing, okay, hey, this is the target we have. This is what we have to prove. So they're going to make, the whole company is getting sharper. And before you know it, it becomes a machine. And that becomes your moat. So it can start small, but then at some point the company is getting more confidence around the guarantee, and you can raise the bar. So there's different ways to do it.
Yeah, so I do like the concept of a guarantee because what you're doing is you're guaranteeing results.
Yeah.
And so what we're not, I mean, now the problem doesn't even matter. I mean, it does, but the problem doesn't matter. What matters is what are the results I'm going to deliver for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people always think, and that's another thing, that the moment we miss the guarantee, we're going to get a claim or we have to give money back. Well, sometimes why would that be a problem? If, for example, if you're at a sales rate of selling 20%, well, losing 80% out of 100, so you sell 2 out of 10, and with a guarantee, you can start to go to 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. Suddenly, your win rate is higher. You can charge a higher price, and out of the 100 projects that you do, 10 might fail, so you have to give them your money back. The question at the end is, what is the upside? That's what companies don't think about. They think about these individual issues that then become, that mushroom in the company and become, everybody's look at you. But at the end, the company is doing better.
Yeah, I often think of that as we're essentially selling insurance, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
An insurance company, if I have house insurance or fire insurance and my house burns down, the insurance company did not make money. They lost money on me,
Exactly.
but they made money on everybody else.
Exactly. So you have to look at it over your whole portfolio. But it's a mindset. You have to want it. You have to want it because of the value that you create for your customers, and not because of the margin that you create for yourself.
This is pretty awesome. Let me ask you. You said you like talking about how we can get people to happily pay a premium. Can you ever get someone to happily pay a premium?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, tell us.
Well, I mean, I already talked about a couple of things before. First of all, you articulate that problem like no one else, and you solve it in a very good way. That's the starting point. Then you give a guarantee. All of these things add up. The moment there's a lot of companies out there, and I mean, my space is what I call sales-led software companies, sales-led SaaS companies. So they bring their product to market with a sales force. It's typically complex software that goes across different divisions. Pretty steep investments, Some is at the 10K level, some is at the 100K, some is at the million plus. And they compete in markets that are highly competitive. I mean, to give an example about the company where I came from, Unit 4, we were in the ERP segment. Now, ERP is been around for decades. Enterprise resource planning, finance software. It's like every company has a finance. Of a certain size, you have a finance software. We were competing against everybody out there that everybody knows. SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, Workday, name it. Well, and all of these companies, bigger, better funded, more people, possibly better products. But if you compete on a feature function level, everybody will lose. So you have to make choice. Are we going to compete on a feature function level, or are we going to compete on something else? And what I found there is that the typically, I think almost every software company out there is at its best because they compete on their approach. They might have the same functionality as their competitors, but the way they've put this software together to solve a particular problem can never be the same because no one can look inside your R&D department. And they can copy the features, but not how you build it. And the choices that you make under the bonnet to build it. And that is where the secret sauce happens. So if you do that, then suddenly you can start educating the market about, okay, well, to solve your particular finance problem, you can go do it yourself with Excel. Some people go miles with that.
Sure.
You can go for a best-in-class product, only a little finance system. You can go to enterprise software like SAP and Microsoft. You can maybe buy a vertical software stack for your company. The question at the end is not like, do they have all the features and functions? Do they have a beautiful user interface? Then do they solve your problem in the right way? So it comes down to like, what is your problem? And not only that, what is the context it lives in? Now you got a couple of ingredients where you can start to position yourself where your approach, their problem, and their context becomes a perfect match. And they start to see that right away. So you can see, I can almost get to a situation that within 10 or 15 minutes, I know. And I qualify in or I qualify out. The moment you get to that idea in their head, like this is the choice, and they're going to give me, they're going to solve my problem better than anyone else. They're going to give me more value than anyone else. Well, why should I then even start talking about discounts? I should even be worried that you as a vendor are not qualifying me out. Because that's what's happening the other side again. Because those companies are so focused on winning the right type of customers to have fluent implementations, companies that are going to be their biggest fans and do the sales for them. I've seen also companies turn it around and say, okay, well, we think we can help you, but we also see a couple of red flags. So we pause here. And then customers start selling to you. Now, guess what happens to the price that they want to pay? There's an art to this.
So I don't disagree with what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the word happily pay more. I'm definitely buy into willing to pay more, right?
Okay.
I'm willing to pay you more because you have a better fit. You solve my problems better. I trust you more. All of those reasons. But I'm going to tell you that your competitor is 30% less, and that's really what you should be charging me.
Okay.
And you're going to say, no, I'm sorry, it's not. I'm going to charge you my full price, and I'm going to say, yes, I'll pay you.
Exactly. So that's again, it's a story in the price of the customer's head. Are they convinced that the approach that this competitor that has the same functionality, but the approach that they're taking is going to give them the same value at the same cost in the same time, and you can offer them? And that's a calculation.
Right.
If they're not sure about that, and then you have, if they're not sure about it, not sure about you and sure about your competitor, then you have another issue. But the moment they are sure about you and not so sure about the others, guess who they want to pay, who they happily pay more money. Suddenly it's like it's worth it, and we are worth it.
So what's the process you go through to help a company say, here's what your secret sauce is? Here's who your ideal customers are?
I've created a process over the last 8 years and refined it and refined it and refined it. It started with what I call my pressure cooker. In my pressure cooker, it's what I call the value foundation. And in my book, I'm talking about 3 levers to create remarkable value, remarkable effects. The value lever, the viability lever, and the volume lever. In that first phase, the pressure cooker, 1 month, that's where we do that. And it's a 12-step process whereby it's almost like peeling an onion. And I suck the company empty in terms of the knowledge that they have. And after 4 or 5 sessions, I start connecting the dots and translating it back. And so far, it worked really well. And then within 1 month, you've got your foundation to create momentum. To get all of the right, to first of all, attract the right type of customers. Currently training this group on that. And it's eye-opening because it's what they felt but never been able to articulate. And raise prices. And because the funny thing is also what I see a lot of software companies do, and maybe it's something that is also crosses beyond software businesses. I came from Unit 4. We had a price list, and everybody has a price list as well. What we typically did is look at our competitors. They charge this, we charge less. Which is like, okay, if you look at it, it's like, wait a minute, are we less than them? Well, no, they're bigger.
Right.
So why do we charge less if we think we are better? Okay, that's the thing. What I found was, in our company, there were sort of 2 camps. There was one camp whereby we had this acquired company from Norway. It was a market-leading product in Norway, in local government, central government, in a number of other verticals. It was the number 1 product in Sweden in local government, central government, not-for-profit, education, and maybe 1 or 2 other verticals. It was a kind of a runner-up in the UK in those in verticals and so on. So it was all around the Netherlands, and they had this established way of doing business, and they thought they were doing the right thing. Then we started implementing into the Netherlands, and they worked, and in Belgium, by the way, as well, and they worked very close with me because I was living there anyway, and I was head of product strategy and product marketing. And we repositioned the product, and we found a way to sell it on an approach level. And instead of winning 2 out of 10, we won 8 out of 10. Instead of giving discounts, 40% discount, 50% discount, 60% discount, we gave no discount at all in the Netherlands and Belgium. So it's the same company, selling the same product in the same verticals. It's just a regional difference. So here's the thing. The moment you get used to a certain level of performance and you get customers here and there, some are perfect, but you don't even realize. Some are maybe not that perfect, but at least they pay you the invoice. You start balancing your price list to the point where customers don't complain about it so often anymore. because you have to give discount. And at some point, okay, this is the price where we don't have to give a lot of discounts. Sometimes we have to. But because you're focusing on getting customers that are not your perfect fit, which are typically the companies that don't see your value or don't value your value the way it should be done. The moment you get to that point whereby you know, okay, this is who it's really for, this is what it was built for, and here it fits perfectly, and the others, let them buy something else. Suddenly you see, hey, we're beyond the charging, so you can actually raise your prices. So when I was, how do you say that? When I was introducing a new price list for, 2016, 2017, all the countries were complaining, we can't sell this. And the Benelux, they were also complaining, it's too, Ton, you've done it again. You've made it lower again. We're not going to use it. We're going to use the other one because it's higher. So segmentation is such a fundamental thing to be able to charge the best price. And the interesting thing is selling to your sweet spot customers, understanding who they really are, accelerates sales cycles, increases your win rates, stops the discounting, increases your profit, makes implementation easier, makes customer success easier, makes the life of R&D easier. It's a cycle. And actually, if it's wrong, it's a vicious cycle that only brings you down company.
Yeah. And so if you can identify that ideal customer and serve them really well, you're absolutely right. This is beautiful. Yeah. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. By the way, I agree with you, but I'm still going to play devil's advocate.
Good.
What happens when there aren't enough of this segment?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of camps in software land. There's product-led growth companies who sell a product and you charge a credit card for $10 or $15 or $20, euro, whatever the currency is. And typically you need thousands of users monthly in order to grow a company that is sustainable. I'm in the other camp. I'm in the camp where a product is brought to market through a sales force. And typically there's higher deal sizes. So a lot of companies, they talk about, how big is the TAM, total addressable market. And it needs to be a couple of billion, growing at 20%, 30%, and so on. And then it's like, okay, if we get 1%, we are a great company. And they don't realize when I ask them, so how many deals do you really need to have a fantastic 2025 or a fantastic 2026? The typical answer that comes back in the mid-market, companies between 5 million and 25 million in revenue, is like 60 companies, 80, 120. So yes, if you're only winning 20%, to get 100 customers, you need 500 leads. But if you need 50 companies and you sell at 80% win rate, you only need 60 leads. So what is it? 65 leads. So yeah, what is the market? If your market is 1,000 companies, a lot of people will say it's too small. Well, it's still big enough to get a pretty big percentage and run a very profitable, pretty scalable company of millions of revenue.
Yeah. And there's no doubt when you can walk in and essentially say the words, "We built this for you."
Yeah.
That they're much more likely to buy it than a generic, "Hey, we built this for everybody. It'll fit you too."
All in one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
all in one for everybody.
Yeah. Ton, I have to ask this question before we wrap up because I'm so fascinated. How is AI changing what you're doing today?
It's helping me to explore more concepts, more ideas faster than I could do before. It's helping me to do competitive analysis way faster than I could do before. It's helping me to find sweet spot leads for my customers and help my customers to do the same far better than they could do before, because you can just search for so many more ingredients. I mean, talking about segmentation, so many companies think that their segmentation is about demographics and firmographics. It's this size in that vertical, you do this, but it's not. It's about all the other things that typically I would put them in the psychographic sphere. For the company I'm currently working for, it's all about the diversity of the business, which is a fantastic task you can give AI. Look at this company and see how diverse they really are. How many services do they bring to market? How many companies do they have? How many different companies do they have? And give me a rank and say whether I should qualify in or qualify out. Seconds. And in the past, it was just guessing. I'm using it to, I write every single day and it's my writing, but I'm using it to challenge my writing. See whether I missed anything. See whether it's on, whether I ramble. See whether it's actionable enough. Whether it's my voice. All of those type of things. So
Nice.
it's a sparring partner.
And what do you see for your customers who are building AI into SaaS now?
Mm-hmm.
How is it impacting them? Right? In terms of, are we communicating the value? Are we talking too much about AI? Are we talking about the problems that AI is solving?
No, we don't. We talk about AI, and we have it as well. We are an AI-powered fill in the dots. Currently talking to 2 customers, 2 prospects. That is literally their positioning. Now, guess what? It's a lot of noise out there, and no one cares that you are the AI-powered this for that. It's all about, what is the problem that you're solving? And the ones that are slapping it on their interface because they're in a rush, because they are, it's old technology and, without it, they're even more lost. No, build something whereby you take something that you already have and you amplify the value of it. Going back to the ERP space, I see so many companies in the ERP space and in the transaction capturing business procurement, HR, whatever. They're so locked into, okay, we are an ERP or we are a finance system and we need to do this. And they are sitting on this gold mine of data and they only focus on, okay, how can we help you capture your transactions faster? Well, going back to value again. If someone is automating away a particular task to free up 1 hour a day, guess how much value is allocated to that? It's an hour of a particular salary, and it's that. But the moment you start thinking, okay, what else in this data that we have can we use to not only automate but augment people in finance to make better, to see things faster, to predict things better, to go after opportunities that they would normally not see. So become their, people have always talked about co-pilot, but the whispering thing in their ear, that is helping about creating value, upside, rather than saving cost. People are prepared to pay a premium for that.
Yes.
And as long as you do that and you can actually prove that it works reliably, then people are, then also the trust in AI is getting to a point where it needs to be, because at the moment it's not.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks
so
it's fake.
I find it fascinating that too many people are trying to sell AI because it's AI. And in truth, it's always, what's the problem you're solving? Always.
Yeah, but it's a wave that has been going on for decades. We had this wave for Windows. We had this wave, for the cloud. That we had this old oops.
It's okay.
Okay. We had this this, that, procurement, invoicing, whatever. Then we had companies that go into the cloud, and we got this thing of, okay, but we are true cloud. Well, now we had mobility. Everything was mobile first and anywhere and anytime. Then we got social, and now we have the AI wave. And in 2 years, 3 years time, it's going to be something else.
Yep. Yeah. I often think to myself, in the old days, people used to say, hey, we're SaaS. And that was an important selling point. Nowadays, nobody cares. It's just the technology you're using. Who gives us?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey,
it's a car.
Ton,
Now it's an electric car.
Yeah, exactly. This has just been a ton of fun. Final question for you. What is one piece of pricing advice you'd give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
Yeah, start thinking about what you do and why customers would pay a premium for that. And if you cannot answer that, there's work to do. It's a very simple question. If people say, yeah, well, we happily if we sell it and we sell it at a discount, you got a big problem. What would it take for people to start paying a premium for it? And very often, yeah, you can actually achieve that quite easily, but you have to kind of start with the question.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Because you know that there's somebody out there that would pay you more for what you do. You just have to identify who it is and why.
Exactly.
And then talk about it. So,
yeah. Well, there's more people
Tom,
that want to pay less for what you do. And you have to kind of, and also on this, that's another thing. Get clear about who you're not for. In the segments that you have defined. So it's not that you're in banking and you say, well, we're not for resale, for retail, or for wholesale distribution. Now, that's obvious. Now, in financial services, we're not for those, we're not for those, and we're not for those. Because that is getting clear about who you are for.
Yep. I think it was Michael Porter that coined the phrase strategy is what are you willing to say no to?
Exactly. Yeah. No, but honestly, that question about, and sometimes in one of the first steps of the pressure cooker, I think it's step number 2, actually number 1. The question comes, okay, why were customers that chose your competitors right? Now think about that. Because they're not stupid. Because everybody's like, yeah, but these morons. No. They were not stupid. They just wanted something else. And apparently someone else offered that. And you didn't. Even though you had the functionality for it.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Ton, thank you so much for your time today. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Well, you can come to my website, valueinspiration.com. Maybe an easy one to remind to unravel my rubbish English is to go to my book, theremarkableeffect.com, or go to LinkedIn. And my name is, I think it's the only one on LinkedIn, Ton Dobbe.
Nice. And Ton, I got to say that I understood every word you said today. Well, maybe 99% of the words you said today.
Okay.
So your English is very good.
All right. Thanks.
To our listeners, thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this, would you please leave us a rating and a review? And if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if your company wants to get paid more for the value you deliver, email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.